Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 18 of the True Talks podcast. As with the usual, the gameplay on the screen is my own gameplay that I have recorded, but you do not need to watch it to understand what I'm talking about. There's not going to be any correlation between, well, there could be, but it's all coincidental. Like, I will not be specifically talking about stuff that's happening on the screen, so you can listen to this in the background if you choose, fall asleep to it, you won't miss much. Okay. The age rating of these is also hovering around a PG-13-ish. More on the tame side, really. I don't know what it is today, but I'm, like, super tired. I honestly... As much as I need the break during the week, like, I need the weekend for sure. Like, I would not be able to continue working every single day, 7 days a week. I would get burnt out extremely quickly. I obviously need the weekend, I need the break. But when you are completely, like, alone, the weekend kind of sucks because it's just boring. Like, I yesterday spent pretty much the entire day playing video games, and today I've spent basically the entire day watching football, and that's about it. Like, I haven't done anything productive, but it's like I shouldn't feel too bad about it because there's nothing really productive for me to do. Like, there's nothing that I really need to get done that I can do at home here. I suppose I should give the topics of today before I get into too many current event things. So the main topics for today are going to be talking about social media toxicity and kind of how I feel about social media as a whole and the problems with it. The next topic is going to be about the Donkey Kong 64 randomizer and my enjoyment with that. Then we're going to go into a special segment, my first impressions of Chrono Cross, which I have started. I think about like 70% of the way through it. Not quite to the end yet, but I'm far enough along to where I feel like I can give my at least first opinions on it. And then the final topic of today will be the Sonic versus Mario debate and talking about where I stand on that. Okay. To start off, some current events. I haven't recorded a podcast episode. I think I took a 1 week break. I don't know. It's been kind of a crazy few weeks. Like, not really crazy. It's just felt really long because in October and November, pretty much every other week was a short week for us, like, for school. We had, like, either a 1 Monday off sort of deal where we had a 4-day week, or we had, like, MEA break, which is a 3-day week, Thanksgiving week, which is a 3-day week, like those sorts of things throughout October and November. And now, leading into Christmas break, we have like 4 straight weeks of school with no breaks, which is kind of exhausting for me, kind of exhausting for everybody else involved too, and the students as well. Yeah, I'm pretty much coasting at this point, to be honest. Like, this, we have 1 more week before it's break again, and I'm for sure just kind of be coasting to the finish line, which is kind of anti what I stand for. Like, I'm all for, like, pushing through and driving to the end, but there's a point where everybody's just ready for the break. Like, everybody's gonna be shut down pretty much this week, me included. I'm, like, exhausted. The weekend, honestly, just serves to make me more tired because I don't do anything. Days where I don't do anything, I feel more tired during the day than I do when I actually teach. Like, sometimes the teaching days are rough. It's usually days that I don't have a lot of sleep the night before. I'll like get home and pass out immediately on those days. But most of the time it's pretty fine. Like, I teach, I come home, I play video games, I eat dinner, and then play more video games and watch YouTube before I fall asleep. It's pretty routine at this point. It does make every day kind of feel the same, but there's probably more I could do after school, like to actually get involved mentally, but in reality, it's like I'm done with my work day. I just am ready to shut down and be like start resting up for the next day. But really, at this point in time, I feel like teaching has kind of regulated itself, to be honest. Like, before, in September and October especially, it was like a roller coaster. There was a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and I would just have like really good days and really bad days. Now it's more just mid. Like, both sides of the spectrum have kind of narrowed down, where I don't have I don't have as exceptional of days as I did before, but I don't have like really bad days anymore either. What I like is that I end the day with high school, and I pretty much have never had a day where high school has been a problem. So I get to always end the day on a positive note. There's a couple times, like, the worst high school could be really is, like, dicey at worst. Like, for the most part, they're not gonna give me any problems. They're all there because they want to be there, because band is optional. And in reality, we're making really good progress on our music. Relating to that, we started all of the pieces that are going to be in our next concert now in high school. Well, in every grade except 6th. We've started pieces that we're going to be working on for the next concert. And high school has already progressed really well on theirs. They have one really hard one, 2 like kind of medium difficulty, and then 1 that's relatively like medium easy is how I describe it. It's not easy, but it's not on the level of the other ones on difficulty. And they're honestly reading it really well. On Fridays, I always have them play through everything from the top all the way through, just so we can practice getting a full concert run in multiple times, so that when we get to the concert, no one has to like question what pieces we're playing in what order, because it's the same as we do every week then. And we practice like sort of endurance stuff, because you never really, like, when you're rehearsing, you never really know how it's gonna feel playing all of those pieces in a row until you do it. Like, especially for brass players, like having the endurance to get through the full set is very much a thing. But on the last Friday rehearsal we had, we read through one of our pieces, and we hadn't even practiced the first half yet. Like, we'd never played it before, and they played it, like, obviously there's stuff to work on, but really relatively flawlessly the first time. And I'm super impressed with how that group has been rehearsing. We're sounding like really very good, and it's amazing how much of an improvement has been made since the beginning of the year in really all of the groups. The only one that I'm kind of concerned with is the 7th and 8th grade group, and it's not like anything to do with them. It just seems like, for some unknown reason, I don't know what's going on in there, but it's like it seems like the harder we work on things in there, the worse it gets. Like, we'll rehearse things, and, like, honestly, this happened in for the last concert, too. Like, for the last concert, so the concert was in November. About, like, the end to middle of October, they were sounding really, really good on their songs, and I don't know if something about, like, my mental expectations changed, or if this phenomenon genuinely happened. Like, it felt like they started getting worse all of a sudden, the more we worked on it. And I don't know what happened there, but it's kind of continuing into this concert cycle, where it's like, the more we work on stuff, the worse the worse it's sounding. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm not too concerned about it because our next concert isn't until March anyways, so I'd rather have stuff to work on for the next 2 months rather than having, like, to force them to just play stuff just to play. But it'll be fine, I'm sure. I've mainly just been trying to get through the day at some times. It's like 7th and 8th grade, I'm not necessarily half asleep, but I'm still, like, kind of warming in, like, it's almost like I'm warming into the lesson. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, it's almost like when I used to do, like, live streams, it would always take me, like, 30 minutes of streaming before I finally got into my kind of zone where I was, like, more conversational and relaxed and stuff like that, where it's kind of the same way with teaching, where junior high, like, 7th, 8th grade band in the morning is almost like my warm-up for the day. Like, that's the best way that I can really describe it. I'm trying to find, like, other words that I could use to describe what's going on there, but that really is the best way that I can describe it, is that it's like I'm warming up for teaching the rest of the day. And then 5th grade has been really frustrating lately, just because they don't seem to understand the importance of, like, being quiet while I am, like, teaching stuff. So yes, they play, and they play pretty dang well when they actually focus, but the issue is we have some days where I literally probably waste about, like, 5 to 10 minutes of the 30-minute class waiting for them to be quiet, and it's like they just do not care. So that's a little bit concerning, but... And it frustrates me too, because I always try to go into that class with a good attitude. I'm always, like, hyping myself up beforehand, like, getting myself ready to go. And then every single time, I just get more and more frustrated as it goes on. Like, I feel like I really do have a pretty high breaking point. Like, it takes a lot to piss me off. But... like, the fact that the entire class, I have to deal with people who have to be reminded, like, 20 times to stop playing their instruments while I am trying to talk to them. Like, I'll be talking to them directly, and they'll be, like, physically looking at me, moving my mouth, just playing away. And I'm like, what part about this do you not understand? I don't know. It's frustrating. Sometimes. And then sometimes it'll be completely fine. Like, it's like, that class specifically is still very up and down with, like, behavior stuff. Like, sometimes it'll be completely fine. And they'll play their songs, and they'll play them just fine. And then some days, we literally can barely start class. So... and then that puts me... well, luckily I have lunch between 5th and 6th grade. But really, there's not much time there. I pretty much run home, make a sandwich, watch, like, 10 minutes of YouTube, and then run back. So there's not a lot of time there for me to recenter myself. So then I'm already kind of in a bad mood some days for 6th grade band, because 5th grade band went bad already. And 6th grade band is similar, but not nearly to as bad of a degree as 5th grade. It doesn't help that 5th grade is in a gym as well, so like if there's even like 2 or 3 people who are playing or talking, it just bounces all over, like off the walls in there, and you can't hear shit. So it's like, I am not one to try to be like the dictator in the classroom. That is not my teaching style, but that's just the way that it has to work, and they don't understand that. Like, I am being very strict and very hard on them, but it has to be that way for it to function. Like, we can't rehearse effectively if they are going to constantly play when I'm trying to teach new things. Like, I'll be actively trying to explain, like, we'll get to something completely new that they have never seen before in the book, and I'll be trying to explain to them what they're supposed to do, and they'll be just yapping away the entire time, and it's really frustrating. 6th grade usually goes kind of similarly to that, but to a lesser degree. Like, they do still play over me, and they do still talk over me, but usually they understand, like, when I tell them to be quiet, they do. Like, it's not as bad as 5th grade, where it's just, like, anarchy in there almost. Like, it's like I cannot reel them in sometimes. And then, like I said, high school is always fine. Like, there's never any issues. Sometimes I feel bad, though, because I definitely start high school in a bad mood sometimes, and I have to reorient myself. I do have an hour, I think it is. I'm trying to remember, like, do the math in my head. It's a little less than an hour. It's like 50 minutes between 6th grade and high school band. But still, like, I still sometimes will have a bad taste in my mouth still from 6th grade, and I feel like it bleeds into high school sometimes, where it's like, what people don't understand about, like, teaching the full spectrum of band, is that you almost have to have multiple different personalities throughout the day, because you can't teach 5th grade band the same way that you teach high school band. Not only because they don't know as much, but also because you have to be harder on the younger kids, because they need to be taught those rules and expectations and need to have those reminders, whereas high school shouldn't. They sometimes do, but they shouldn't. And you can be a little more relaxed with high school, because if you're relaxed with 5th grade, they're gonna remember that and be like, oh, it's fine to talk the entire hour now. Whereas high school, they'll understand, like, time and place with certain things. Most of the time. Fun story about that, or like fun fact about that, I never wanted to teach anything prior to high school. I never wanted to teach anything prior to high school. I was strictly going to only teach high school band, and that was what I was going to do. I pretty much decided that for myself when I was still in high school, really. I was like, I am going to teach high school band. I am not teaching even middle school, but especially not beginning band. Because 1, behavior stuff is more of a problem in younger groups, and 2, I honestly felt semi-incapable of teaching, like, beginners how to play instruments I'm not as familiar with. Like, in the beginning of the year, I was learning fingerings along with, like, the clarinets and saxophone and flutes, like, all of the woodwinds. I was pretty much learning the fingerings along with them. And now I have a better grasp of them, where I've picked up enough on it that I can tell the most fingerings, but I don't know, like, some accidentals and some like octave, like higher octave stuff. I don't know those. But I've gotten a lot better at that. The one thing that I still am, it's still a learning experience for me, is percussion. Like, I just feel, which is rough for them because their previous director was a percussionist. So coming from that to now me, who is I'm not clueless on everything percussion, but like, people think it's just banging a drum. There's so much more to it than that, and you have to deal with, like, the hardest part for me with percussion is, like, when do I teach them how to play the other, like, instruments? Because it's like, they all know how to play, like, speaking from, like, 6th grade and up, they all know how to play snare and bass drum, obviously. Those are the, like, snare is not basic, but they're, like, the first things you learn. But it's like, when do I find the time? Like, obviously they have their lessons, and I've been trying to include that in there, but like, some of the junior high people who don't have as many lessons as the ones in like 6th grade and before, I'm like, how do I find the time to teach them timpani without like completely halting class and spending like 10 minutes to teach this kid how to play the timpani? Like, when do I find time for that? Or like mallet percussion. Like, xylophone is hard. Like, it's easy to play like something like Hot Cross Buns on xylophone, but as soon as you get into the crazy business that some like more advanced pieces have in them, it's like, when do I find the time to teach the kids that? And it's like, I can't hover over their shoulders all the time being like, all right, you're starting on E flat and you're going up to an F after a few counts. Like, it's like, that's hard for me, is like figuring out how to include all of that percussion teaching in class, because percussion covers such a wide range of stuff, and that's the hardest part. And I will never be like, I feel like I've gotten a lot better than I pretty much started from 0 in percussion at the beginning of this year. Like, I had played a little bit of xylophone and a little bit of like everything else as part of my percussion tech class that I took in college, but it's like, that was one semester that I took. It's like, that didn't cover everything, and trying to figure out how to do rolls and stuff and trying to teach them while I'm figuring it out myself is tough. Like the 5th graders. And trying to find a way to engage them all the time as well. Because, like, this isn't to discredit percussionists, because really, it's hard to include them all the time, because it's like, your usual wind player warm-ups don't include, like, it's like playing scales. You can have one person on like the mallet percussion do a scale with the wind players, but that's one person at a time that can do that. And then I found these warm-ups that my mentor teacher used when I was student teaching that does include the percussion, which is nice. Like, I know I look at some of the high schoolers when they're doing it and they look bored out of their minds, but it's like, at least they're doing something. Like, it's a warm-up for a reason, for one, so it's written pretty easily. But it's, again, at least something for them to do, whereas they don't always get that. And I, like, feel bad because sometimes we'll be, like, rehearsing a part over and over again that has, like, no percussion. And I'm like, what can I do to make this better? So it's not to discredit them, it's just, like, a lot of, like, because concert band music is not going to heavily challenge them. There's never very many, like, advanced, like, if you write too crazy of a percussion part, it's going to throw the entire band off. So there's got to be a balance there in writing as well for the composer. Like if you write an incredibly difficult snare drum part and they can't play it, then the band isn't going to be able to follow tempo because like the snare drummer isn't going to be able to play it and keep a steady beat. So that becomes problematic. But at the same time, you can't just have them playing like quarter notes the entire time, obviously, either. So it's hard to find that balance for engaging the percussionists. But I actually had my mind changed during student teaching. All the way through, I was not going to teach. I was like, I'm not even going to apply for a job that has me teach anything less than 9th grade. And I might make a consideration for 7th and 8th grade, but I would never teach 5th and 6th. And doing my student teaching, I actually really enjoyed that. Like, when I was student teaching, the 6th grade class was super fun. Like, I actually really enjoyed having the 6th graders. And I also really enjoyed junior high as well. I do wish that I could put the problem with the one thing that people don't think about when you're a 5 to 12 director is it is so hard to focus on all of them equally. Because I'm finding right now I spend a lot of time preparing for the younger grades and then just coasting through the hour in high school. Like, I don't plan a lot for high school, which I probably should start doing a little bit better of a job of. I kind of plan what sections we're going to work on and what we're going to work on playing, but I don't think as hard about what we're going to do specifically in high school. I just kind of coast through the hour and let them play, which I think is what happens with a lot of 5 to 12 teachers with band, is you focus more on the younger grades and then just kind of let the high school do the work for you. Because the 5 to 8 group needs much more support, especially the lower end of that group needs much more support and much more physical teaching, whereas high school is more physical rehearsing. Like, you're more rehearsing and playing things repeatedly in high school than actually teaching new concepts, because they learn pretty much, in band, you learn pretty much everything you need to know by the end of junior high. At least that should be the goal. And then freshman year, especially in a band that's 9 to 12, like you have one high school band and it's 9 to 12, as a freshman, you kind of just learn stuff on the fly that year, because you are then blending and being taught almost by the high school, like the upperclassmen. But it's really easy to just kind of forget about the planning for high school because that group is so much easier. And that's partially why I do still have that wish, like, in the back of my mind. I am not going to leave this job. But I have that wish in the back of my mind thinking about what if I could just spend all my time focusing on my high schoolers and focusing on preparing for that class and preparing like full-on lesson plans, thinking about what I'm going to teach and all of that stuff with high school. Whereas right now, where it stands, all of that focus is being given to like 5 through 8. Like, that's something that you don't necessarily think too much about either, is like high school band. To them, it's like it's their only band class of the day, but for me, it's 50 minutes out of my like 8-hour long day, where during the day I'm giving lessons to younger kids. I have younger bands, and then I see them for the last 50 minutes of my day. So, I feel like now that honestly, this has been a really good episode for me to kind of reflect on myself. And I'm kind of just throwing this out there. Honestly, it's been a ramble fest, but this has honestly gotten me thinking about and reflecting about the way that I've been doing things lately. And I think I've fallen off a little bit of what I want to be doing. And this talking about, like, saying all of this out loud has kind of made me realize that, which is good for me, and hopefully I can approach things better in the future, because I'm realizing now that really I am kind of coasting, and I really shouldn't be coasting nearly as much as I am. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because it's snowing outside. But in reality, I've been coasting way more than I should be. Like, I've been kind of taking... Like, it's hard to balance, because if I focus on work 100% of the time, I will be so drained. But right now, I think what's happening to me is I am pretty much going to the school, doing what I have to do, and going home, because I've been getting burnt out a little bit. And I'm kind of realizing that now that I'm thinking this through, which is really interesting to, like, put this out there for you all to see. But it's hard to find that balance, and I think I've skewed it a little bit too far into the relaxation portion, because you kind of have to have that even balance on the scale of work and life. And I think my life has taken a bit too much of the tug of war, as you will. So maybe I need to focus a little bit more, because I went into teaching being really extremely enthusiastic, and it kind of blew up in my face a little bit immediately, because my expectations were a little bit high, and suddenly I didn't feel as ready as I was, and I don't think I ever really recovered from that, now that I'm, like, reflecting on it, because you don't get time. Like, you don't get time like this, really, to sit and think about, okay, how have things changed from the beginning? And how things have changed from the beginning is, in the beginning of the year, I was spending a lot of time at the school organizing things and really being fully prepared to, like, trying to make sure I taught at a high level, because I really cared about doing that, and I still do. It's just that I've lost a lot of the energy that I had in the beginning. And maybe I can try to get that back. I don't know. Now I'm motivating myself. We gotta see how tomorrow goes. But it is hard, because you don't, like I was getting at, you don't get time to recover, because I spent the entire summer prepping myself for this job and getting myself ready for it, but I couldn't have, like, expected a lot of the things that came with it. So yes, I was slightly ill-prepared, but it was, like, on stuff that I never could have possibly thought to prepare myself for. Whereas now I'm getting a lot better of a grasp on things. But because I had kind of lost the energy that I had in the beginning of the year, and I'm realizing I kind of checked out a little bit. Like I said, I pretty much go to the school, do what I have to do, come home, and play video games. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. I do enjoy my time there. It's just that it's been a little bit more, like, a little bit more moderate, I would say. Like, more mid, if you will. It's been a little bit more mid. And we aren't experiencing as many highs because I think my energy level has depleted. My battery has depleted. But I'm thinking, and that is what's hard, is because, yes, I get the weekend, but when I don't do shit over the weekend, it's almost more mentally draining than the school day is. So I need to do something that gets me inspired, I think, is what I need to do. I need to find inspiration. I need to think about what I'm going to do and stop. Pardon me, because there's going to be an F-bomb coming. I need to stop fucking coasting, because I am actually kind of pissed at myself now that I'm realizing how badly I've checked out a little bit. This has just been the therapy episode where I talk about my problem. It's, again, it's really been going fine. Like, it's been fine. I just have been so low on energy and never really, I'm realizing now that I never really fully recovered. Like, those first 2 to 3 weeks, I was fully present every hour of the day, and then I just got exhausted and kind of tired of it, and so I kind of checked out a little bit and stopped caring as much as I was before. Like, I'm just realizing now how much of a mindset shift I've had over the, like, past couple months, and how I never really recovered because, again, I get the weekend, but the weekend I'm not really doing anything engaging, so it's more exhausting, really. I think maybe I need to, instead of spending my Sundays watching football and playing video games all day. I mean, I cook. That's a little bit creative. It's not like I sit on my ass and do absolutely nothing all day. But I need to do a better job of actually thinking about what I'm going to do during the week on Sundays and trying to come up with something inspiring, other than my planning as of late has been like, okay, we're gonna pull out these pieces and pretty much just deciding what order we're gonna rehearse the pieces each day that we have. And there's got to be more to it than that. And this is a fault of myself that I am now realizing. And realizing live on a podcast episode, which is interesting to have this revelation here. But it's been almost 40 minutes. We can move on. Okay, so talking about social media and kind of the toxic impact that I think it has on society as a whole. Now, this is the title of this segment sounds like a boomer take, but what I want to get across is I do not think the internet is an inherently bad thing, and I don't think social media is an inherently bad thing. I just think it is going in a direction that is irreversible, where it has become far too easy to be, like, a negative, bad person. Like, maybe not a bad person at heart, but it is so incredible. I know this because of stuff that I've done when I was, like, a teenager. It is so incredibly easy to just type some shit up and hit the send button and not even look back. Like, it is so much easier to type things rather than say them in person, which creates sort of that rift where it's like, yeah, you can, it's much easier to, like, talk shit on Twitter than, like, say it in a public space. Like, and kind of the direction that I want to go to with this is not just, like, the world as a whole, it's more the impact that I see on, like, kids. Like, people who are below the age of 18. Even, like we're talking, like, early high school and before. Like, freshman, sophomore, and before. Because juniors and seniors, they've kind of got a grasp on it, and they can handle it. But, like, when you get into those younger grades, it's like, what some people don't understand is when you are putting yourself on social media, if you aren't private, that is, you could just be, like, have a private account that you only have your friends on. But if you are posting stuff online, you are posting it, opening yourself up to criticism from literally the world. Like, when you are a small account, it's pretty unlikely your post is going to escape that vacuum. But as soon as other people start seeing your posts online, you are going to start receiving, like, and this isn't necessarily a direct cause and effect. Like, it's not like I post something, I get negative comments. It's not always exactly like that. You don't always get negative comments on everything you post. But what younger people don't seem to understand is, like, when you post stuff online, it's available for everyone to see, and you are opening yourself up for literally the world of endless opinions. Like, you will almost always be wrong really, on any opinion, you will always be wrong in someone's eyes. In some manner. You will always be incorrect to someone. So you have to keep that in mind, and you will always get, you won't always get negativity on your posts, but you will always be under the threat of having negativity brought upon you because of the fact that social media is widely available to everyone. And if you're posting publicly, it is easy for people to just stumble upon that. Especially if you're posting replies. Replies are even more dangerous because then you get people, like, who are just scrolling through, looking at the replies, and then they'll see yours, and then boom, suddenly you're in the middle of a conversation Twitter war with someone. But part of the reason why I think social media is so toxic is just the fact that it really is so much easier to hide behind a screen and talk crap. Like, and that's not a boomer take, I don't feel like. I'm not saying, like, rip it away from everyone, but it's gotten to the point where it's so much... This goes for, like, life in general, too. It's so much easier to be negative than positive. It's always going to be easier to find something wrong than to focus on the right. It is always easier to sorry, something happened in the football game behind me and I got distracted. It's playing on the TV in the background. But it is always going to be easier to take the negative approach than the positive. And what's different is people usually type things on train of thought. Like, they just type what they're thinking. Whereas in person, it's much easier to hold your tongue, I think, than on, like, an internet forum where it's like, if I'm pissed, I'm gonna let people know. I used to be really bad about that. Like, I used to post really angry responses to people who had different opinions on me than me on Twitter. Like, my later, like, sophomore, junior years of high school, I was on Twitter a decent amount. And even into like early college, I was like posting replies to people like in bad taste, just to argue. And I have since deleted Twitter now, but I kind of grew from that and started just typing them. I used to type tweets, reread them, and then subsequently delete them because I realized there's no point in posting this. Like, this adds nothing. But it's just, like, the fact that Twitter is so openly available. I think it says it's for 17 plus. I'm gonna check the App Store on that just to, fact check myself on that. I think it says it's 17 plus. It might, maybe it's not. Yeah, it does. It says 17 plus in the App Store, but that's the same as like, same as anything else that's 17 plus. It's just like, it's basically the same as a teen rating on a video game or an M rating on a video game. A lot of people just bypass that and don't care. Like, they ignore it. The reason it's supposed to be for 17 plus is because younger people are more impulsive and will not, like, even me as a freshman in college, I was still impulsive and was sending tweets that I shouldn't have. What else? Like, you have a lot of younger people on Twitter who are exposing themselves to stuff that really they shouldn't be. Like, it's weird how much more complicated this sort of thing becomes as an adult, because it becomes like this issue of censorship, almost. Like, you want a bunch of stuff to be readily available, but, like, kids nowadays are so much more, and I see this firsthand, I'm not going to name any specific age groups or anything, but kids nowadays are so much more vulgar than they were when even I was that age group. Like, it took me until I was in, like, 4th, 5th grade to even know what a curse word was. Like, I didn't know about any of that until, like, 4th or 5th grade. And back then, even, like, I was innocent enough to, like, when my dad had that sort of conversation with me, like, these are bad words, you shouldn't use them. I thought I would, like, be smited from existence or something if I said fuck when I was in 5th grade. Sorry, I need to keep the F-bombs down. I gotta forget that I'm just, this is so, just off the tip of my tongue. Like, so off the, what's the word? Rambly, like, it's just off the top of my head. That's what the word I'm looking for. It's not tip of my tongue, top of my head. I'm tired, give me a break. Okay. But, like, it wasn't until, like, this is gonna be known as the vulgar rated R episode, because I said the F-bomb 2 times, oh, oops. But, oh, what was I getting at? Like, I legitimately, as a younger child who was, like, in the 5th to 7th grade range, always felt terrible whenever I did something, like, that was inherently wrong. Like, if one of my parents, like, heard me say, like, a curse word or something, I felt terrible about it for, like, the entire day, because I was like, oh, I did something so terrible today. I sinned, or whatever. Whatever. Like, I felt legitimately bad about it. Whereas, like, you don't get that anymore. This is getting beyond the social media conversation. But I think it's it's partially, like, social media definitely has an influence on that, though, because kids are getting access to social media much earlier than I did. I wasn't, like, I was on Facebook when I was 12, and I wasn't supposed to be. And, like, I got in trouble for being on Facebook. Like, when my parents found out I had a Facebook account, they sat me down and had a long conversation with me, and then blocked Facebook on all of our, on our network. So I wasn't allowed to use Facebook anymore. And Facebook is a pretty innocent platform, too. It's not like I was gonna get, like, any... Especially back then, it's like I wasn't gonna get any radical opinions or horrible things that would ruin my innocence on Facebook as a 12-year-old who was only friends with my one friend in elementary school and my middle school girlfriend. I wasn't gonna encounter anything crazy on there. And it wasn't until, like... Let me see, I might still have my first Instagram post up on Instagram. I'm not sure about, like, that one. It might have not been until, like... Yeah, I was a freshman in high school when I got Instagram for the first time. And now the kids get it in, like, 5th grade. Or earlier. Like, they get it in, like, 4th grade or something. Like, it's actually crazy to me how early they're being given access to these things, where before, like... Yes, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that jazz was still pretty new when I was a kid. So it wasn't, like, as... Like, it's not that it wasn't as readily available, but it wasn't as well known when I was in, like, middle school, high school. But at the same time, I feel like parents and people in general took the, like, age recommendation of social media so much more seriously. Like, Facebook was 13 plus at that time, and I got in trouble for joining it when I was 12, because I was too young to be on that platform because it was 13 plus. And I'm pretty sure Instagram is also... I think Instagram... Again, I'm checking an age rating here on the App Store just to make sure I don't talk out my ass here. Yeah, Instagram is 12 plus. Snapchat is 12 plus, which blows my mind. Snapchat, there's no way in hell Snapchat should be 12 plus. That shit should be like 17 and up. Like, because it's so unregulated. Like, Snapchat is... Yes, I use it, but it's one of the worst, like, I think it might be the worst, like, texting-specific platform out there. Like, it is so bad because, people think they can say whatever they want on there because their stuff disappears, but they don't realize that it doesn't actually, like, it's still there, and it can be recovered. And the fact that there's Snapchat just feel like it feels really unprotected, to be honest. Like, the amount of, like, quick ads I get from those scam, like, sugar mommy accounts is, like, insane. Like, I think I could go into my quick ad right now and I probably have, like, 10 people in there that I have not added that are, like, this, like, it's the same Bitmoji and, like, it's like, you know it's a scam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. And I've deleted many more, where it's like the same Bitmoji and it's like a first dot last name, random numbers. And it's like scam accounts. And obviously a kid isn't gonna get fooled by it. Like, kids are smart enough to not get fooled by that. It's not like they're gonna be like, ooh, $100? In my Cash App? Yeah, I'll do that. But, like, just thinking about how like I was getting at in the beginning of this talk, social media, when you go on it, you are exposing yourself to literally, like, everything. Like, yes, it's regulated, but they don't catch everything. There's moderation, and it's gotten better, but especially stuff like Snapchat, where you're just getting direct messages, and Twitter is really bad. Like, yes, it says 17 and up, but it is so easy to just be like, oh, whatever, I don't care, and go on Twitter. I don't know how many people actually use Twitter, but like Twitter and YouTube as well. Like, there's YouTube Kids, but I feel like there needs to be a middle ground. Like, YouTube Kids is too kid-friendly, and then YouTube is just, you're throwing yourself into everything. Like, yeah, there's an age restriction feature on YouTube where it's like you need an account to watch certain videos, but the amount of times that actually gets, like, flagged is very slim. Like, and, well, I remember, like, when YouTube, like, when I was younger, YouTube was still kind of in its beginning phases. And I remember people, like, going around the playground being like, you'll never guess what I saw on YouTube. And, like, back then it was, like, the most controversial things were, like, mock-ups where people would, like, do animations of Pokemon, but, like, they had guns or something, and they would shoot the Pokemon, and it was full of, like, blood and gore. Like, that was the stuff we were exposed to, was, like, violence, whereas now it's just, like, just complete vulgarity in, like, YouTube. And it's partly what influenced me to just kind of do whatever I wanted when I was younger and started a YouTube channel. That's why half my videos are, well, like, pretty much every video that I had from then are privated, because you don't want to see that. I mean, you probably do, but, and some of you did, but it's definitely vulgar. And it's just, it's so easy now, like, not to use the word corrupted, because that seems so extreme, but really, that is what's happening, is, like, kids, like, parents don't understand how much shit there is on YouTube, and just letting their kids go on there, and, like, the fact that, like, iPad kids have become a thing where it's like they sit on their iPads and watch YouTube and do, like, watch whatever they want at all times is what's, like, corrupting them, because they think, like they, as much as you think they can, like, pull, like, some kids are mature enough to be like, yes, this is a video, I don't need to replicate this, but kids like that are very, like, kids are pretty impressionable, and they will start to replicate behaviors that they see. So if you have, like, your second grader watching YouTube, they're gonna start cussing up a storm and think it's no biggie because they saw their good friend Aaron Hansen of the Game Grumps do it. So it's a big problem, and I just think that, like, there's not really anything that can be done about it because it's gone so far out of control at this point, I think. They're just, like, parents just need to be aware, and I'm hoping with newer generation parents that we'll start to see a bit better regulation. Like, honestly, at the time, I thought my parents were, like, being very dictatory over, like, what I could and couldn't go on the internet, because they would block they blocked YouTube. I couldn't watch YouTube until I was in, like, high school. They blocked Facebook. They even blocked Snapchat for a while. What else? Well, really, they blocked, like, anything that would be, like, adult oriented. And honestly, that sort of thing, like, makes sense. Like, it's, like, it seems like a cry for, like, yeah, go censorship. But, like, I really, truly feel, now that I am seeing it firsthand, like, with all of the kids that I see on a daily basis, I think that's what's happening. It's, like, social media and TikTok, too. Kids should not be on TikTok. Like, because there's no regulation. Like, I'm pretty sure there's no, like, kid-friendly TikTok. It's just all there on one sort of dealio. I'm pretty sure. And TikTok says it's 12 and up. Like, that's bullshit. Like, pardon me, but that's garbage. Like, TikTok should, again, be, like, 17 and up, but it's like people don't understand the amount of inappropriate, like, bad influences there are on YouTube and TikTok and social media platforms like that. And kids start following them like they're Jesus or something. And they just replicate what they see. Like, they'll see something and think it's funny, and they'll start repeating it over and over and over again. Like, I don't think parents or, like, really just people in general understand how much of an impact those social media influencers have on that, like, generation. Because they were the COVID kids. So they, like, I'm now putting this connection together too. They were the COVID kids, so they grew up on their iPads, on their phones, just browsing YouTube and browsing TikTok. And it's like, meanwhile, I grew up watching SpongeBob. Like, that was where my influence was, because SpongeBob, as, like, maybe the humor is a little dumb, but it's like SpongeBob was regulated and clearly catered towards kids, where who cares if I replicate or repeat things that I hear on SpongeBob? I still quote SpongeBob sometimes. It's like, that's harmless. Whereas then you have YouTuber A getting into controversy because they said the N-word or something, and kids are gonna start, like, replicating that. And it's a problem, and people don't seem to understand how big of a problem it is. And again, I will never be, like, for complete censorship. I love YouTube. I watch it every day. I fall asleep to it every night. But, so I don't think it should be taken away, like, completely. But the problem is, people don't realize just how impressionable kids are, and they let them just sit and watch YouTube and do whatever they want all day on it. And it is forming their vocabulary and forming their tendencies in ways that are unhealthy. Like, kids grew up learning from, like, TikTok challenges and, like, funny compilations like that, to where they think, like, being rude and stuff like that is okay, where they think it's funny being disrespectful to people because that's what they do in the videos, so it must be funny. Like, it's not a problem with, like, it's not like a like, people talk about this generation being, like, kind of going downhill. It's not because of, like, the kids just being harder inherently. It's not because there's nothing inherently wrong with, like, parents of today. There's it's just the fact that I don't think enough has been said about that side of social media that you cannot let your kids have unrestricted access to TikTok and YouTube. Especially not before, like, high school. Like, freshmen, like, even 8th grade, I think it's fine. Like, at that point, they've matured and they're growing up enough. Like, yeah, maybe they'll start, like, hearing bad cuss words and stuff, and sexual references and stuff like that, but they aren't hearing them as an impressionable, like, 4th, 5th grader, which is where I think the difference is. Like, even, like, a PG-13 movie is so much, like, it's more restricted, and I think better to watch for a kid than a random YouTube video that they find, because, again, it's regulated, and, yeah, kids might not be the intended audience, but you're not gonna get, like, crazy, terrible influences in a PG-13 movie. But I don't know. It's just interesting, and I don't like where the world is heading with that, because I don't really see this talked about enough to where, like, rather than watching, like, movies and TV shows, kids are watching YouTube and TikTok, where, one, it's shortening their attention spans. Like, they probably couldn't even sit through a, like, actual episode of a TV show or an actual movie. Which you actually, interestingly enough, you see that, too. Like, it used to be, like, you could show movies in class for a relaxing day. Kids can't even sit through an entire movie right now without getting, like, squeamish. Like, they start, like, feeling like they need to do something because they're used to their 10-second long TikTok videos. But anyways, let's move on. Okay. DK64 Randomizer. I posted a gameplay video actually yesterday of me playing one. I've been recording some, I just haven't uploaded them because I don't know that it's actually interesting content to watch, because I'm not that good at it yet. What's fun about it is really, the developers of the DK64 Randomizer are kind of geniuses, because DK64 Randomizer is not a game that you would ever think would work that well as a randomizer. Like, normally it works really well in, like, Metroidvanias and, like, Zelda type games where you get a clear progression of items and you get them, like, now you're getting them out of order, so you have to go to different places in a different order than you're used to solve the puzzle. Where that doesn't really work in 3D platformers because there's not as much of, like, a upgrade or, like, move distribution, where there is that in DK64, but not nearly to the effect of, like, Zelda, where it's like, once you get the hook shot, you can go to all these different places and check this. It's like, in DK64, it's like, I get the grape shooter, and I can now check, like, a couple things, and it's like each individual thing only unlocks a little bit. Some more than others, but, like, the developers of the DK64 Randomizer are actually, like, complete geniuses with how they got it to work, because normally 3D platformers, I don't think, lend themselves nearly as well, because it's not the same style. Whereas, like, the Mario 64 Randomizer is just throwing stuff everywhere, and it's just literally, like, random. There's no real thought put into it. Whereas now it's like you have the DK64 Randomizer with logic, that you actually have to get moves and unlock things in a certain order, and there's a logic to it that makes it a solvable puzzle, and it makes it feel almost more like one of the Zelda games where it's like a puzzle. And the quality of life features that they introduced as well just make the game more playable in general. Like, the bosses felt too long in the original game, in my opinion, so they shortened them. They made it so that you can tag barrel anywhere, so some of those really annoying long challenges where you have to keep switching back and forth between Kongs and going into tag barrels and backtracking all the time, you can get all of it in one fell swoop because you can just switch monkeys at the tag of a button, or the press of a button, and it's super nice. I think that's probably the best part about it, is so many of those quality of life feature additions. And the fact that they actually like did cool stuff like adding in like unused mini games to the mix as well is super cool. And how they balanced the settings, like there's obviously tweakable settings as there is with Ocarina of Time randomizer, but how they recently had a race and how they managed to get those settings so that a race seed is really pretty consistent. Like, it's pretty much always going to take about an hour and a half to 3 hours if you're good enough. I usually stop at around the 3-hour mark and I haven't finished the seed yet because I'm not that good at following the hints. I'm getting better, but I'm like, you kind of have to follow the hints in order to get finished in that amount of time. But like, it's really cool how consistent it is. Like, you look at all of the tournament seeds and they're all pretty much around the same time frame, like how long it takes to beat it, which is super cool. And the fact that they were able to create a lot of different settings for the randomizer as well, to where it's like, you can start with any amount of keys, you can require any amount of keys, you can randomize entrances, you can randomize where only the levels, you can even randomize the individual colored bananas, I'm pretty sure, if you want, for a more chaotic experience. And there's a lot of custom music that they've included as well, which is super cool. It's just really cool to see, and it makes me really hope that eventually there is a Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie randomizer that's done in a similar way, because I think it would lend itself pretty well. Like, you open up... I think Banjo-Tooie would work better, because that world is a little bit more open. Whereas, like, the hub world of Banjo-Kazooie, Gruntilda's Lair, it's very progressional with where you can go. Like, you get the Talon Trot in the first level, which allows you to explore the rest of the kind of first main area of the lair, and then you need Shock Spring Jump from level 2 to get to the puzzle for level 3, and it's already kind of got that sort of progression about it, so that one might not work quite as well. But I think the fact that it has moves that would be randomizable helps. The only issue is that, like, DK64, just the way they made it works perfectly, because you have the Splats that can sometimes hold moves, you have the bonus barrels, you have the shops between Candy Kong, Funky Kong, and Cranky Kong, all having potential items, all the golden bananas, all the banana medal rewards. Whereas, yes, there's a lot of collectibles in Banjo-Kazooie, but how many of them would you actually, like, throw into the pool? Where, like, maybe they could make the 100 note, like maybe they can make getting 100 notes an item or something. I don't know. Or maybe they make it so that when you get enough notes to open the next note door, you would normally get like a key to open it, and that's randomized in there or something. I don't know. The issue that I foresee, like with there is a Banjo-Kazooie randomizer, but it's similar to the the Mario 64 one, where the items are just in random places instead of actually having like a logic swap sort of thing. Where maybe like bottles could have a Jiggy or a Jin, like the Jinjos, the Jiggies, and the moves could all be randomized. But beyond that, there's not that many actual collectibles that you use in the game. It's more collectibles that you actually use for moves. Like there's eggs and feathers, but those are used like as ammo. And you wouldn't randomize the notes because the notes are similar to the colored bananas. So it pretty much is just Jinjo's moves. And, well, you could do Mumbo tokens too. That would be another one. I think that'd pretty much be it though, like for randomizable stuff, whereas Donkey Kong 64 just ended up working really well because they have like battle crowns and all of the other collectibles that you can get that aren't really like the collectibles in Donkey Kong aren't used for anything. Like there's the ammo boxes and oranges, but that's all you grab for ammo. Everything else is legitimately a collectible that's pretty much like a key to unlock something. Like you need battle crowns to open up the area in Hideout Helm. You need banana medals to unlock the Rareware minigame for the jetpack minigame for the Rareware coin. Moves, obviously you buy those. Golden bananas are similar to Jiggies, where you use them to open levels. There's just a lot more to work with in DK64 than really any other 3D platformer, so that's why it almost is the perfect 3D platformer to have in a randomizer, because it has so many randomizable elements, so that it actually can create a logic string like that. Whereas, like, I have the dream of having Banjo-Kazooie work for that, but I don't think there's enough to randomize to really create that sort of puzzle to it. Whereas the current Banjo-Kazooie, I haven't watched it, so I can't say this for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the same as Mario 64, where it's literally just randomizing where the items are, and they're just all over the place. And that's the only randomizable element. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's literally just random. I think randomizing level, like, entrance, like, and like level order would maybe help with Banjo-Kazooie a little bit. But again, it's like, in a lot of cases, you need certain moves to access certain levels, where in Donkey Kong 64, there's only one level that requires a move to get in there, and it's Gloomy Galleon level 4. You need diving to get into that level. Whatever level it is, you need diving to get in there. So it becomes just different in that way. And there's the fact that in Donkey Kong 64, to unlock the levels, not only do you need enough golden bananas, but you also need the key. Where Banjo-Kazooie doesn't have something like that, where you only need enough Jiggies to finish the puzzle. You don't need, like, there's no bosses that you get keys from to open the next level. Banjo-Tooie might be a little bit more doable, because Isle of Hags, that one is not nearly as closed off by moves. Where it's like, you can access a decent amount of Isle of Hags with minimal moves, from what I remember. I haven't played Banjo-Tooie in really quite some time, like, thinking about it, because it's not on the Switch Online. I play Banjo-Kazooie every once in a while because it's just on my Switch, but I don't have Banjo-Tooie, so I can't. I mean, I have it on my Xbox, but my Xbox hasn't been turned on in a while, so I don't know. But anyways, moving on to my my first impressions of Chrono Cross. I really liked Chrono Trigger when I played it, but I don't know, something about, like, I liked it, and I liked how unique the battle system was, but I never finished it. I got only as far as I did when I was streaming it, and I never went back to it. I'd probably have to restart now, if I tried to beat it, because I don't know, I don't have any idea where actually, I think I do know where I'm at. I think I just got the Epoch, and that's where I'm at in Chrono Trigger, but it's been... Has it been 2 years? It's been a long time. I don't know. I can't remember when those streams were. I think that was the summer before my senior year of college. I couldn't remember if it was the summer before I started teaching or the summer before my senior year. I think it was the summer before my senior year. Yeah, it was. And that was almost 2 years ago, like 1.5 years ago, that I played Chrono Trigger last. But this is about Chrono Cross. I really like it so far. I'm really invested in the story, and I really like the enemy and character design in this one. Like, everyone is so uniquely designed, and all of the enemies as well, that I really do like it. The one complaint that I have so far is that there's just too many characters. Like, it's good for, like, replayability's sake, because really, from what I've heard, all of the characters pretty much are usable. It's just a matter of who you prefer, who you want. But the issue comes up where later on in the game, there's a definite best character of every element, and it's like there's no real reason to use anyone of that element other than the best one. So, I don't know. I like the fact that there is so much variety with the amount of characters you can recruit. However, when you really only get to pick 2 of your characters, because you're stuck with Surge as the main character, and then you pick the 2 others, you're pretty limited in what you can do with your party, and when there's so much available, it's kind of annoying. Especially when, like, to add someone new, you kind of have to de-equip the one that you're taking off, and then completely re-equip. Like, I usually just auto-do it, because I don't really care that much, and then switch things as needed. But, like, still, it's a process to, like, switch characters in your party, because you have to unequip everything off of the first one, and then re-equip whatever you want on the new one that you're adding, which is a little bit annoying. But I do really like it so far, and the battle system is super fun. I really like the idea of elements, except it took me forever to realize that, like, the elements were counter of each other. Like, red and blue are weak to each other, and green and yellow are weak to each other, and black and white are weak to each other. The amount of times that, even still, I try to use, like, a red element on a green one, thinking it's like Pokemon, because green is kind of the grass, like, plant type, and thinking it's gonna be, like, extra damage, and realizing I'm wrong is still annoying, but I do really like it, and I really like how much your characters amp up throughout the game, too. Like, where at the beginning you are very limited with what you... Like, not only what elements you have available, but what you have able to be equipped, like, how small your grid is. And as you go, it just gets more and more and more. Like, you get more elements, and you get a lot more space on your grid. Whereas in the beginning of the game, it's like you had to be careful about what elements you use because you could very well run out before the battle's over. And now it's like, it's more about the timing of when you use the elements than anything, because you're not going to run out of them. There's no way the battle's going to last that long. I don't think this game will make it to my top 50 games. I might like it a little bit more than Chrono Trigger right now, which I feel like is an unpopular opinion. I do like Chrono Trigger, but I'm more like the story. I never really got that into the gameplay. Like, I liked it, but I didn't really understand how, like, all of the hype for it. Like, I do really like the story, and maybe I'm just not that pressed to finish it, because when I kind of took that break from it, I was like, I'm probably not going to play this much again anyways, and kind of watched a plot overview, so I already know everything that happens in the story. I just haven't experienced it for myself, and maybe that, like, took away from my experience of the game, but I did the same thing with Undertale, and I love Undertale still. I watched someone play Undertale, both Pacifist and Genocide, before I did it myself, and I still love that game, so it's like, I don't think it had that much of an impact on my feelings about that game. But I really do like Chrono Cross, and it's really cool. It's the same way as the first game, where Chrono Trigger, you have the same small, pretty condensed map, and you're going across timelines exploring it, where now you have the same pretty condensed map, and you're going through the two different dimensions. And it's super cool just how different each area feels. Well, sometimes. Sometimes it's pretty much exactly the same as... Even, like, the enemies are the same, but they're just, like, a different level than the other world. But I do think it's really cool, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it, and I haven't just been blowing through the game either. Like, I've been trying to do a lot of the side stuff as well, and I've been really liking some of the characters, like additional stories that you can explore. Right now it would sit at like an 8 out of 10, but maybe like Live Alive, as I go through the rest of the game, maybe it'll creep up further. Because right now I don't think it beats Live Alive for me, but I do really like it so far. The last topic of today's episode is talking about Sonic versus Mario. Now, I think this is a really interesting debate because I don't think, like, a lot of people would easily say Mario is the clear winner. I am not of that camp. I do not think that is the case. I don't think I've talked about this before. Let me take a drink of my coffee. I don't think I've talked about this before, but in my opinion, Sonic has higher highs than Mario, but way lower lows. Like, it's way farther on either spectrum, where Mario falls a little bit more middling, but consistent. That's what makes it such an interesting conversation to me, is that 3D Mario is generally better than Sonic in a lot of ways. Like, if you ask me to take Frontiers or Odyssey, I would take Odyssey. It's a bit close, but I would definitely take Odyssey over Frontiers. The one that becomes harder is I would probably take Adventure over Mario 64. Like, I would take Sonic Adventure over Mario 64. But then the other 3D Sonic games are like, we don't even bring them to name. But in a lot of ways, I think 2D Sonic is a lot better than 2D Mario in just, like, the level design and how smooth it is. for the most part. There are some really good 2D Mario games out there, like Mario 3 and Wonder, which I still haven't played. I mean, I played it with my brother, but that's about it. There's then Mario World, which I never really was that big of a fan of, but everyone else loves it. But Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 are, like, better, in my opinion, than almost anything Mario has done, and they are, like, pretty consistently awesome, like, through the entire game. It's, like, super fun to play Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. I hate the final boss of Sonic 2, but that's about the only part of that one that I dislike. And Sonic 3 and Knuckles is really, really good. And Sonic Mania, in my opinion, is like a perfect 2D platformer game. There is no bad levels in that game whatsoever. Which is, like, up for, like, debate with whether I like Sonic Mania or Donkey Kong Country better, because it is that smooth. So it makes it hard to really pick a definitive, better option. Like, yes, 2D Mario games have better, or have more levels, but I would argue that they're a little bit more bland and boring than, Sonic, and a little bit less defining, I would say. That's the word I'm looking for, defining. Because it's like, I remember Oil Ocean Zone. I remember Studiopolis Zone. But, like, if you ask me to tell me what is in Mario 3 World 4-2, I could not tell you what that level is off the top of my head. Like, I think there's a lot of samey levels in, like, Mario games in general. And I think Wonder does a better job of that. That one seems to be a little bit more inventive with its level design, and there's, like, I would much rather, like, 2D platformers are better with less levels, but better, like, longer and more, like, defining levels, like, levels that leave an lasting impact. Like, I will remember this level. Like, Donkey Kong Country 2 has that. Like, I remember, like, very specific levels of the Donkey Kong Country games, because there's less levels in those games, and they're more, like, set apart from each other. Whereas Mario, there's a lot of levels that feel very similar to each other in every game, really. But then you go to the 3D side, and it's like Sonic has Adventure 1 and 2. It has, Frontiers. And Generations was okay. I've more middled on that one now that I've played it again, because it just is so unresponsive sometimes with its controls. Like, it doesn't control nearly as intuitively as I feel like other games do. But, like, clearly Mario won the GameCube era with Sunshine. And it clearly won the Wii era with, Galaxy 1 and 2. Unleashed was pretty good. I have only seen gameplay of it. I've never played it myself. But it was, like, from what I've seen and heard, it's pretty okay. And then Sonic Frontiers versus Odyssey. Odyssey is just too clean to let Frontiers take that one. Frontiers just has a few, like, small minor bugs throughout, and a few unfun parts, where Odyssey is pretty much a smooth ride the entire time. And that's just a very good game. But I think I wasn't planning on coming out of this discussion with a clear winner. I just think it's interesting to think about and compare the two, because I really do not think it's nearly as clear-cut as people act like. Like, people act like Mario's the clear winner, where in reality I think there's more good Sonic games than people give them credit for. Because the bad ones are so defining, like, everyone knows Sonic 06, everyone knows Sonic Boom, but... And because people have been so soured on those games, it makes it so people don't talk about Sonic 2 and 3 or Sonic Generations anymore. But with that, I think I am going to end today's episode of the podcast. A bit open-ended, but I hope you all enjoy and have a spectacular weekend and a great week. This is going to be in the past tense. Actually, hold on, when is this coming out? I think it's got a few weeks yet. I hope you had a good Christmas and have a happy new year, and look forward to 2024. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace out.